What if the person you trust most in a crowded bar is actually a predator lurking in the shadows? Reinhard Sinneger, dubbed the most disturbing serial rapist in UK history, preyed on unsuspecting victims, leaving a trail of trauma and devastation. As we delve into his chilling story, prepare to confront the darkest corners of human nature and the harrowing reality faced by countless survivors. Background of Reinhard Sinneger. Reinhard Sinneger, born on February 19, 1983 in Indonesia, moved to the UK to pursue his studies, enrolling at the University of Manchester. His life as a student masked a sinister side. Between 2015 and 2017, he committed a series of horrific sexual assaults in Manchester. Initially perceived as an ordinary student, Sinneger's true nature was revealed when he was arrested after one victim fought back during an assault. His case became notorious, marking him as the most prolific rapist in British legal history. Convicted of 159 sexual offences against 48 men, his actions have raised critical discussions about male victimization and the societal perceptions surrounding it. Modus operandi. Sinneger's modus operandi involved preying on vulnerable young men, often those who were intoxicated or lost after nights out. He would lure them to his apartment under false pretenses, such as offering assistance to find their friends. Once inside, he would drug his victims with substances like GHB or GBL, rendering them unconscious. Sinneger meticulously recorded the assaults on his mobile phones, capturing hundreds of hours of footage that later served as crucial evidence in court. His calculated approach allowed him to exploit his victims' trust while maintaining a facade of normalcy. The sheer volume of his crimes and the methodical nature of his attacks highlight a chilling level of premeditation and deceit. Victim profiles. The victims of Reinhard Sinneger were predominantly young men aged between 17 and 36, many of whom were heterosexual. They were often targeted in nightlife settings where alcohol consumption left them vulnerable. Sinneger's charm and small stature made him appear non-threatening, which facilitated his ability to lure victims into dangerous situations. The psychological aftermath for these men has been devastating. Many reported severe depression, anxiety, and difficulty in resuming normal lives post-assault. The trauma experienced by these victims underscores the need for targeted support systems for male survivors of sexual violence, an area often overlooked in discussions about sexual assault. Legal proceedings. Sinneger faced 4 trials between 2018 and 2020, culminating in convictions for 136 counts of rape, 14 counts of sexual assault, 8 counts of attempted rape, and 1 count of assault by penetration. His defense claimed that the encounters were consensual sex games, a narrative that was vehemently rejected by the jury upon reviewing the overwhelming evidence presented. Initially sentenced to a minimum term of 30 years, this was later increased to 40 years after the Court of Appeal deemed the original sentence too lenient. The trials were marked by significant media attention and public outrage, highlighting issues related to consent and victim support. Public reaction and media coverage. The public reaction to Reinhard Sinneger's case was one of shock and horror. Media coverage extensively documented the trials and their implications for societal views on male sexual assault victims. Many articles emphasized the need for greater awareness around male victimization, which often goes unrecognized due to prevailing stereotypes about gender and sexual violence. Survivors bravely shared their stories, shedding light on the psychological toll inflicted by Sinneger's actions. The case has sparked discussions not only about justice for victims, but also about systemic changes needed within legal frameworks to better address crimes against men and provide adequate support services for survivors. Impact on victims and society. The impact of Reinhard Sinneger's crimes extends far beyond the immediate trauma experienced by his victims. Many of the 195 men targeted faced profound psychological consequences, including severe depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Victims reported feelings of shame and isolation, often unable to confide in friends or family about their experiences. The societal stigma surrounding male sexual assault further complicates their recovery, as many men feel pressured to conform to traditional notions of masculinity that discourage vulnerability. The long-term effects have disrupted their careers and personal lives, with some struggling to maintain relationships or pursue academic goals. Sinaga's actions have sparked a broader conversation about the need for support systems for male survivors and have highlighted the importance of addressing sexual violence in all its forms, ultimately pushing society to re-evaluate its understanding of consent and victim support. Comparative analysis. Reinhard Sinaga's case is often compared to other notorious serial rapists, yet his unique methodology sets him apart. While many serial rapists have targeted women, Sinaga's victims were predominantly young men, challenging conventional narratives around gender and sexual violence. His use of drugs like GHB to incapacitate victims is reminiscent of other high-profile cases, but is particularly alarming due to the sheer volume of assaults. Over 195 confirmed incidents. The systematic nature of his crimes, coupled with the extensive video documentation, illustrates a chilling level of premeditation rarely seen in similar cases. Sinaga's trial has also been described as one of the largest rape trials in UK history, drawing international attention and prompting discussions about legal reforms regarding drug-facilitated sexual assault. This comparative analysis underscores the need for a nuanced understanding of sexual violence that encompasses all victims, regardless of gender. The role of technology in Sinaga's crimes. Reinhard Sinaga's case highlights the disturbing intersection of technology and sexual violence. He utilized his smartphone to record his assaults, creating a chilling archive of his crimes that ultimately became pivotal evidence in court. This aspect raises critical questions about privacy, consent, and the potential for technology to facilitate predatory behavior. The recordings not only served as proof of his guilt, but also added a layer of trauma for the victims, who were forced to confront their assaults through video footage. The case has sparked discussions about the need for stricter regulations on digital privacy and the ethical implications of recording intimate encounters without consent. As technology continues to evolve, it becomes increasingly important to address how it can be misused in the context of sexual violence, emphasizing the necessity for preventive measures and educational programs. Support systems for male survivors. The aftermath of Reinhard Sinaga's crimes has underscored the urgent need for effective support systems specifically tailored for male survivors of sexual assault. Traditionally, discussions around sexual violence have focused predominantly on female victims, often leaving men feeling isolated and unsupported. Many male survivors struggle with societal stigma and misconceptions about masculinity, which can hinder their willingness to seek help. Advocacy groups and mental health organizations are beginning to recognize this gap, working to create resources that address the unique challenges faced by male victims. These initiatives include counseling services, support groups, and public awareness campaigns aimed at destigmatizing male victimization. By fostering an environment where male survivors feel safe to share their experiences and seek help, society can begin to dismantle harmful stereotypes and promote healing for all victims of sexual violence. Sinaga's legacy in true crime history. Reinhard Sinaga's legacy in true crime history is marked by the sheer scale and brutality of his crimes, making him one of the most infamous figures in British legal history. His case has not only reshaped public perceptions of male sexual assault, but also highlighted systemic failures in recognizing and addressing such violence. The extensive media coverage surrounding his trials has sparked conversations about consent, victim support, and societal attitudes toward male victims. Furthermore, Sinaga's actions have prompted legal discussions regarding the classification and prosecution of drug-facilitated sexual assaults, potentially influencing future legislation. As society grapples with the implications of his heinous acts, Sinaga's legacy will likely serve as a catalyst for change in how we approach discussions about sexual violence and support for survivors, ensuring that his crimes are not forgotten but rather serve as a lesson for future generations. As we close this unsettling chapter, let's remember the importance of awareness and support for survivors of sexual violence. Reinhard Sinaga's crimes serve as a stark reminder that evil can hide in plain sight. If you or someone you know has been affected by similar experiences, please seek help. Together, we can break the silence and shine a light on these critical issues. Thank you for watching, and stay safe.